Hi, and welcome back after that super long hiatus. Just kidding. To Nadya's Identity Files. I'm here with Natasha.
Hey.
Hey. Thanks for being here. I was just saying that Natasha actually led the panel that I was telling you guys about that I was on a few weeks back. How long ago was it? Like a month?
A month ago.
A month ago? Oh my God, it's crazy. So now I get to ask her questions that are kind of like synergistic with what she was asking me and the others on the panel. So I'm super excited to talk to you. Mm-hmm. You're like a veteran in the digital realm, and I know there's a lot that I can learn from you. So if you could just tell me a bit about your path into the world of technology, because I know you were doing other techie stuff even outside of the digital marketing.
Yeah, I mean, so basically, like, I would consider myself like an early adopter, just because my family were from Europe, and we moved to the States when I was about 10, and
Where in Europe?
England and Switzerland, yeah. And so, despite the accent, I still have passports. But
nice.
We moved to Utah, and making friends when you're 10 years old is kind of hard. And so, my dad had a computer, and I got onto the computer, and this was before the internet was around, and I started dialing into bulletin board systems and chatting with people, and started to learn how to code, and started creating connections really, really, really young. And I just felt like I had access to a community that wasn't in my day-to-day reality. And so when I was in high school, when everyone was like, I don't know what I want to be when I grow up, I just knew that like there was this thing that excited me, and it was technology. It wasn't necessarily coding. It was just this instant connection that I was able to have with people that I'd never met. And so when the internet came around, I was probably about a freshman in high school. When they needed someone to develop the high school website, I like immediately raised my hand, because I was like, well, that's me, of course. I connected to that. So that's kind of where
cool.
Yeah, what I did. And so, I ended up going to college for computer science, and then ended up going to art school, and then started my career as a web developer. And
so art school. So what was your concentration then in art school?
It was actually on multimedia basically. So I found that the computer science degree was more math focused, and I felt like that path would have led to me potentially being like a professor, and I didn't necessarily align myself with the computer science curriculum that school offered.
Yeah.
And so when I was able to see that the Art Institute of Seattle had this multimedia degree where you're learning graphic design, you're learning web design, you're learning audio engineering, I was like, wow, like I get to basically put my hands on all of these different mixed medias, put it together, and then come up with something that is mine, if that makes sense.
So it was like super multidimensional, and that way you could, learn a little bit of everything, and then pull it all together in a way that made the most sense for you. So when you were done art school, what was next on the agenda?
My gosh, I actually dropped out of art school because I got a job at a startup. This was like back in 1999. I'm gonna age myself, and
99.
They offered me a big salary, and I was like, I'm gonna go work for this company. Screw school. And I worked there for like 8 months, and then they didn't have any money left to pay us. And then I got
startup life.
Yeah, I got laid off, and then I was like, well, I guess I'm gonna go back to school. And so I went back to school and finished my degree. And
same place?
Yeah, same place. And then 9/11 happened, and I was kind of ready for a change. And I feel like everyone at that time was going through a lot of mourning, and I ended up moving down to San Diego, and that's kind of really what it started my career really in tech, in the terms of figuring out like working at a web development agency, and having the experiences of an 18-hour workday, and sleeping at the office, and doing all the things that kind of you have this kind of a rite of passage, I would say, in the tech world. And so I basically worked at a bunch of different web development agencies, ended up kind of evolving from programming into project management, and then started overseeing agency operations. And then 5 years ago when I moved here, I became a digital production director for a big ad agency here in LA. And then about 3 years ago, I actually ended up quitting my job, and the reason why was my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer, and I needed to take some time off to help her, but then also figure out what I needed to do work-wise, just in general, to be a little bit more flexible. And so I was a consultant for a couple years, and then about a year ago, I did a contract job at Fox, and then I became full-time at Bright House. And so I have had definitely a slew of different jobs, but they've all evolved into, where I am today.
So how did you come in contact with Bright House, and now you're the super duper executive of Bright House? I came in contact with Bright House. I knew the owner, Billy Canoe. I met him actually about 12 years ago in San Diego, and he was just such a sweet person. I always knew that he was an expert in search engine optimization, and we just remained in contact. And over the years, as his agency grew, I would have a small consulting gig with them, and time came to be where there were a lot of LA clients that they were closing deals on, and right.
It just seemed like it was a good fit that they had some representation here in Los Angeles.
That's awesome. You guys, it's important to build them relationships.
It is.
Build relationships. It will serve you in many ways. Many ways. So, you also do a lot of advocacy work in tech, like women in tech, and in the LGBTQI community. Can you talk a bit about that?
Yeah, so, one of my other kind of hobbies, I guess, I had in the past was event production. And so I threw a lot of parties in San Diego. I used to be a DJ in San Diego, and later on moved here and threw events here. And I realized that the two weren't necessarily, they were combined because they were, I was in technology and I was throwing events, so I was doing what my passion was, but I really wanted to combine them. And so 2 years ago, I joined a women's technology networking group and became the Southern California director. They're called Lesbians Who Tech, that's based out of San Francisco. And so that actually really worked well because I get to have my event production skills, but then I also get to combine it with technology, right, and really connect with people and provide visibility for the the queer community in technology. So I started doing that, and basically that involves every 6 or 7 weeks we have a networking event, whether we're hosting a panel or we're just having a beach day. But it's really providing people the opportunity to get out there, to meet people, whether it's from a social aspect or if it's from a networking aspect. And it's just a really great environment to put yourself. Everyone's always very sweet and just welcoming. And then about a couple weeks ago, I joined the programming board for Start Out, which is a national LGBTQ
I've heard of them, yeah.
Entrepreneurial nonprofit. And basically what they do is they provide access to LGBTQ entrepreneurs and connect them with investors for their ideas, basically. And so
I will be messaging you more.
Yeah, no, I actually got to have a really awesome experience. I was in San Francisco last week, and they have Peabody Nixon is a law firm in San Francisco in the financial district, and they have donated.
It's a big firm.
Yeah, they're half of their, on the 18th floor, half of their space to Start Out, and they actually have a co-working growth lab. And in that growth lab, there's currently 3 startups that are being funded by Start Out VCs, and they are basically working to get either their first round of investment, and also have a really great organization backing them up.
Fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. Yeah, you're pulling it all in together, and I think that's really important for us. It's even though there's some nuance in our passions,
mm-hmm.
as long as we can somehow find a way to umbrella it under something.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that, I never looked at technology as I'm going to go to work and I'm going to do this job and I'm going to collect a paycheck.
Right.
To me, technology is basically just the fuel that puts you in the car to drive you where you want to go, right?
It's a place of innovation. Yeah.
It is. And there's so much, it's because it's constantly evolving. I think that if you are able to just kind of stay on top of it a little bit, you can leverage it to be whatever you make it, whether or not you want to have a personal passion and you want to push that cause, or you want to grow a business. It's completely possible. Or put it together. Yeah.
Put it together, y'all. Put it together. Make an impact out there. Well, thank you so much. One last question for you, and then, of course, we're going to segue to our roundtable conversation. How has all of this work in technology contributed to or helped evolve your own identity?
Wow. I would say that it's evolved my identity because when I was younger, I would say like maybe 20 to 25, I was still concerned about what other people thought about me. And through just kind of realizing that the people that I work with in technology and the people that I surround myself with are what create my identity, because you are who you hang out with. You've heard that kind of that phrase, is that I've just become more confident with my business relationships and my personal relationships by knowing that I just I'm aligned with the right people. And so I think that I think identity is constantly evolving. I think labels can be kind of sometimes a nuisance in a sense.
Yeah,
and
for
we
sure.
were kind of talking about that before the show, but yeah, I mean it's I just think we all have to move forward, and we need to use technology for just empowering our beliefs.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we'll be right back for a roundtable conversation where we'll be digging in more about how to harness technology for social good. Stay tuned.